They're not a team that gets a lot of steals right now because they're so big.
Mm.
They don't need to press out right now. They can, but it's not necessarily who they are. So they're defensively, I like the makeup of their team. But to be, they're not a knockout punch team just yet because of some of the personnel losses that they've had. But I like the way they play.
Obviously, I'm a UT alum and here in Knoxville and watch a lot of UT basketball games up close. But I'm curious from what you've seen from Tennessee. Obviously, the defense is there with Rick Barnes' group, and this is maybe the best defensive team he's had thus far. The offense is a question. We'll see what happens with Josiah Jordan-James this week and if he's able to go. And that's just such an important part of where they can get offensively. But based on what you've seen thus far from Tennessee, do you see enough of an avenue for this offense to get good enough to make a deep tournament run, or do you still just have too many questions about how they match up offensively come tournament time once again?
I don't think it has to do with questions that you may have or I may have. All you have to do is watch it.
Mm,
They're just not consistent offensively. And when you've got so many guys, like they get a lot of second shots, which is
mm,
good because they miss a lot of their first ones.
mm-hmm,
And they're not a good finishing team. They shoot a ton of threes and they don't make them at a high rate.
mm,
But because they defend so well, they can absorb an off night and still win. And when they do hit shots, they're gonna win.
mm,
But they're just inconsistent. They're not a consistent shooting team, and that has nothing to do with the schemes that they run, the kind of shots that they take, things like that. They just don't have a ton of really good shooters, and they've got some guys that can make shots and that I would call streaky.
mm,
I think Keys probably, if they had a horse game, he'd win.
mm-hmm,
But they don't, and a number of the guys aren't good. A number of their players aren't good around in finishing in 2 point range,
yeah.
and so that inconsistency there, and all these numbers include their offensive rebound stickbacks now,
Mm-hmm,
which they get a lot, a fair amount of. Last time I checked, it's been a while, but they're in the top two or three
mm-hmm,
in offensive rebound percentage. And now if you hit more of your first ones, that'd be really good. Those numbers
mm-hmm.
would be really good, but they just don't hit enough of them. And I think when you get into the later parts of the season, when other teams are going to be more proficient scoring against your defense, that defense is spectacular. The numbers are off the charts, but some of those numbers are created against teams that can't score anyway. So not everybody. I mean, they've performed consistently well against just about every team they've played on the defensive end. They're hard to score against. But I don't know. Like, I think when you watch Tennessee play in their best games, you're going, who's
Mm-hmm.
going to beat these guys?
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch every game, you're going to go, okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
And that's true of a number of teams out there. But with the way the games are being the way the games are officiated, you can go after people defensively, and that bodes well for Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, it's just gonna be pulling teeth every week, I think, against the big dogs. It's just I don't see the offense and the shot makers just being there, and we'll see if Josiah Jordan-James' knee is not right all year. I don't see the path. Like, he's just so important at the top of the key, and he's probably their best shooter. Santee's having his worst shooting season thus far in his Tennessee career, so we'll see if that keeps up. But if that's a shoulder thing, because he had his shoulder issues, we'll see if that keeps up. But Barnes will adapt. Like, he did one game of Zakai Zeigler in the starting lineup, and he was like, "Yep, that's done. That's literally never happening again. Zakai, you're never starting once again." But we'll see what happens with Tennessee. We talked last time about officiating, and you just mentioned kind of team styles like Tennessee with their aggressive defense being a huge